So this is where the diet comes into the first picture. Change how you eat and what you eat. Give up processed food. That processed food literally doesn't have anything good that it can do to your body. So giving up all that processed food, processed meats, or processed sugar in itself is a big change for a lot of people, because that itself will take away a lot of inflammation containing foods over there. And then after that, again, swap for healthy food choices. Most of us are not eating our enough vegetables in our diet. Those non-starchy, colorful vegetables have great antioxidants. That's the natural way of giving nutrients to your body and reducing inflammation to your body.
Welcome to MyMD Unscripted, where healthcare gets personal and the script gets tossed. I'm Dr. Clint Carter, ER doctor turned direct primary care freedom fighter, on a mission to challenge how our healthcare system treats patients in America. In every episode, my expert guests and I dive into real conversations about what's broken and how we can fix it by making healthcare about people, not just managing disease. It's time to rethink what healthcare should be and how we can make it better together. Welcome to the podcast. Welcome to MyMD Unscripted. I'm your host, Dr. Clint Carter, and today I'm super excited to talk about Hashimoto's and thyroid, and you would say, why would I care? Today, we are honored to have a guest who's one of the world's experts in here. And so I guess I would start with that if Hashimoto's is the most common autoimmune condition in the world, then of course, all the doctors know how to handle it, and it's easy, right? Unfortunately, millions of people in the US and many more worldwide are suffering without real answers. And I guess the question built into that is why? And my guest today might say that what if the question isn't even really at the thyroid, but the problem is that the thyroid is a symptom of bigger issues. So it's without further ado, I would love to introduce you guys to Dr. Anshul Gupta. He's a renowned thyroid autoimmune specialist, trained at Cleveland Clinic Functional Medicine. He has a best-selling book called Reversing Hashimoto's, and he has a global mission to heal 1 billion people with a B. And they're out there to be healed. So thank you so much for joining us, Dr. Gupta. Tell us kind of how you got here, and thank you so much for joining.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me on your show over here. You're doing an amazing job of helping so many people and sharing so many relevant information that is needed in today's world.
Thank you.
Because, the internet is filled with a lot of information, but we want, MDs like you who are actually sharing information which is research based and relevant. So people have some trust factor in that. So thank you for doing that.
Yeah, thank you, man.
Absolutely. So, interesting in the functional medicine world, this is always a joke that whenever two functional medicine providers meet, we always tend to ask this first question. Well, what is your story? You are a conventional MD. How come you land up in functional medicine? Because obviously in our medical school, we all are hating, those people who are talking about alternative world of healing or modalities, right? So my story was very similar. I was a traditional family medicine trained physician. After my residency, I was working in my dream job in a small clinic, in a Virginia area. And just couple of years into my practice, I started having a lot of health issues of my own. Started gaining a lot of weight, even though I did not change anything in my lifestyle. I was having horrible stomach problem. This stomach pain will hit me suddenly out of the blue, and it was happening again and again. I thought initially maybe it is acid reflux, so I started taking over the counter medicines for it. Then I thought maybe those are not working for me, let me take higher doses of medicines. So I started taking prescription medicines for that. Then even then it was not getting better, and I was getting brain fog. Like by the end of the day, I was not able to concentrate on things. I was feeling literally fatigued during my clinic hours, that my lunch hour was gone in taking a nap, because I just had to function. And all of these things are happening, but blood work was absolutely normal. Nothing could kind of pinpoint what was going on. I saw my friend who was a gastroenterologist. I said, well, let's scope you, just do an endoscopy, let's see what is going on. He did that. Everything was normal. Bunch of ultrasounds were done, other testing was done, and nobody could figure out what was going on with me. They added more medications. Maybe it is your gallbladder, maybe it is your gut motility issues, maybe your allergy to things. So everybody was throwing things at me, and these are all my friends, right? Great doctors,
Yeah.
amazing doctors and trying to help me out, but they could not do it. I was only 32 years of age at that point of time. I was already on 5 medications and
That's crazy.
still
Yeah.
suffering from all those symptoms. And I was like, really? At this age, I have to take all of these medications for lifelong basis, and I had no hope of getting better. So that's where, like somebody said, well, why don't you try functional medicine? This is for people like you, who have no hope of getting better. I was like, okay.
Desperate
Uh,
times call for desperate measures.
yeah. So I looked into functional medicine, got trained into it, and started implementing those things in my own life. I changed how I eat, how I process stress. I included some workouts as well as some meditations in my life. And within 1 month, my stomach pain was completely gone. And within 6 months, I was off all medications. The stomach pain was still off. My energy was really good. I lost 40 pounds during the
Oh, wow.
time.
Wow.
And plus, my brain fog was so good. I was feeling so good that even I participated in a 5K rugged maniac. And I was a never athletic person. So for me to doing that was really a big achievement that finally I was able to do something.
Wow. Yeah, right on.
So that was my aha moment, like, just few months, of doing things, like changing my lifestyle, taking certain supplements can heal me. So there is something out there. So I want to do research. I want to look into like how this functional medicine model of care can help other people. So, like I was invited to join Cleveland Clinic Functional Medicine Center. That is an only academic center which is looking at why or how
Right.
functional medicine can be incorporated. So over there, actually, I started seeing time and again that I was attracting these kind of patients, who had very similar story as mine. They were all having weight issues, unable to lose weight. They were tired. They had brain fog issues, and they were all taking medications. And that was thyroid disorders. And they're still not doing good. So I said, well, like there is something out there, maybe that has not yet been discovered, why these people with thyroid and Hashimoto's are not getting better. So I started researching over there and realized, okay, well, Hashimoto's is just not about deficiency of thyroid hormone. It is much more than that. So I developed protocol over there and then started implementing, and we saw amazing results. Not only they felt better in terms of their symptoms, but the disease process also got better. This is the first time that I realized that finally that the Hashimoto's antibodies could be reduced, because before that I was always told there is no way that once you get an autoimmune disease, that's a life sentence for you, and those antibodies are never going to go down. But in our patients, we saw amazing results of reducing antibodies as well as improving their lifestyle. So that's been my mission of, like, doing functional medicine model of care, especially for Hashimoto's patients, has been the journey now.
I'm going to say most functional medicine guys and ladies that I've talked to, it all starts with their health. My health was, I am Hashimoto's, low thyroid. I mean, of course, thyroid, low testosterone, depression. Of course, low T and low thyroid, you're going to be depressed. I was burnt out in the hospital system, and I was like, no, there's got to be a better way. This is awful. And so, yeah, I'm super excited about talking about Hashimoto's a little more, just personally, because in regular training, you're right, no one talks about reversing autoimmune disease. They just talk about controlling it, throwing in some medications to suppress your immune system, because obviously it's out of whack. So I'm super excited about what your protocol looks like. I think we could take a step backwards, though, before we get too deep into this rabbit hole, and just for the audience, what exactly is Hashimoto's? Sure, it's autoimmune, but tell me, how do you explain it to your patients?
Absolutely. So I think a lot of people know that they have a thyroid disorder, right? Their thyroid is not working, and they're told that it is hypothyroidism. But what they don't know is the reason of that hypothyroidism. And Hashimoto's is the number one reason at this point of time for hypothyroidism world over. So Hashimoto's disease is an autoimmune condition where your body is making antibodies against your own thyroid gland. And that starts a very slow destruction of your thyroid gland. And then weeks to months to years, it takes that thyroid gland to be destroyed. And finally, then you become hypothyroid. Now, the problem is that, as you said, in conventional medicine, we are only told to check one thyroid marker, which is the TSH. And that is not even a test for Hashimoto's disease. And by the time the TSH becomes abnormal, we have missed that window of testing or diagnosing Hashimoto's at earlier stages. People are going for these blood testing and they have been symptomatic for years. And then they keep on telling their doctor, something is wrong with me. I feel tired, I have brain fog, or I'm gaining weight even though I'm not doing
Yeah.
anything. They've all been told that, they are stressed out. But in reality, it is a Hashimoto's disease. So very important to get complete thyroid testing to know whether you have Hashimoto's disease or not, specifically if you do have symptoms. Now, previously, once first, when we got diagnosed with hypothyroidism like years ago, the number one reason at that point of time was iodine deficiency. Now,
Yeah.
because of the world over, iodine has been added to so many different foods. Now, the current scenario is actually 90 plus percent of patients actually have Hashimoto's disease. So, very important for people to know that, why they have hypothyroidism, and is it only genetic or is it actually because of Hashimoto's disease?
It's crazy that in my family medicine residency program, we only checked TSH. We didn't check any, TSH isn't even a thyroid hormone. It's a brain hormone, right? It's your brain's opinion about how well your thyroid's doing. God forbid your TSH be in range and you be fully symptomatic. There's like, well, can't help you, you're barely in range. That means you're normal. And even, I mean, that would have been true with iodine deficiency, 50 years ago. But now with Hashimoto's, man, it wasn't until the patient started asking me to check their TPO antibodies, their antibodies against their thyroid. And that's just one antibody that I was like, and then my doctor that was taking care of me checked it for me. And I was like, oh, cool. What's that? So, and I was 10 years into my career at that point. So it's just crazy what the average, well trained family medicine physician doesn't know about this condition.
Absolutely. And I was in similar boat, whenever people will come to see me, say that, oh, I've heard that, there is a Hashimoto's disease and can you check my antibodies? I will say that why you want to check your antibodies? You are on right medications, your TSH looks great. Even if your antibodies are positive, my protocol is not going to change, right? So simply because there are no medications, or even at this point of time, also people, a lot of physicians don't know how to lower these antibodies. So I would have done the same thing until later on when I
Yeah.
realize why these antibodies are so important and actually you can reduce it. That's the reason now we are able to check them and want to follow them so we can actually reverse the disease.
Okay. So now that we kind of have a good, we all are on the same page. What is Hashimoto's? Tell me about the functional medicine approach. Tell me about what I didn't know coming out of residency that is, fueling really your passion for helping people worldwide.
Absolutely. So again, as I said, Hashimoto's is an autoimmune condition. And again, going deeper, people should ask this question, why? Why did I get Hashimoto's disease? That's where my journey also started. Well, why are people getting Hashimoto's disease suddenly? And unfortunately, there is not a very clear or appropriate understanding from the research standpoint. But what research says is that it is an interplay between your genetic makeup and the environment around you. Okay. So people will say, oh, so it means it is genetic. No, our genes do not change so quickly. It takes decades for the genes to change. So it is certainly the environment around us which has changed dramatically that has caused this autoimmune diseases, especially Hashimoto's disease. So we have to look at environmental factors as a cause of these Hashimoto's disease, and when we work on these environmental factors, actually that's where we see an improvement. So through my research, I call them as root causes. So I've identified 5 major root causes which leads to this Hashimoto's disease. So these 5 different root causes, first of all, would be food sensitivities. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now these food sensitivity is very different from food allergies, because people might think that, okay, well, I don't have any food allergy because I'm consuming every food. I'm not breaking out in hives and I'm not swelling up like a balloon or anything. Well, these are food sensitivities. Food allergy is that way people might have peanut allergy. You eat peanuts, you blow up like a balloon, you land up in the hospital. Okay. While food sensitivity is that you eat certain foods like gluten. Your body says, hey, gluten, I don't hate you, but I'm not really fond of you either. So produces very small amount of antibodies. And these small amount of antibodies start destroying your gut, leads to something called leaky gut issues. And we know that research suggests that leaky gut is a starting point of autoimmune diseases like Hashimoto's.
Yep.
So more and more food is what we are identifying, especially gluten, dairy, processed food, processed sugars that we are eating in our diet today has been associated with destroying our gut and leading to this problem. So food sensitivity is a major problem which is leading to Hashimoto. So that's the first root cause. The
Hmm.
second root cause is nutritional deficiencies. Now, what is happening is that, we have been producing food with all of these modern agriculture techniques. But what we forgot was that our food also needs proper nutrients because we are
Right.
relying on our food for these nutrients. Now, there was a research study done which compared the nutrient density
Yeah.
from food from 1980s to 2010. And what we realized was that majority of the nutrients which are needed by thyroid gland, like magnesium, like zinc, like selenium, all of these are very deficient in our current diet because our food itself is low in density of these nutrients. So several of these nutrients are low in our diet. We are not consuming them, and that again leads to Hashimoto's disease. As I said, the top ones over here are magnesium, zinc, selenium. Obviously, vitamin D, everybody knows about it. So these are certain nutritional deficiencies which has been associated with research studies of triggering of Hashimoto's disease.
It's funny that I think it was probably that same study. They were like the eat your vegetables mantra from the 80s almost doesn't work. You would have to eat like 5 bowls of green beans to get one serving's worth of nutrition that you would have gotten in the 80s and obviously before. So it's just we've out harvested the nutrients we were taking without replacing from the soil. There's some regenerative farming techniques that are making a push trying to replace that. But at this point in the game, it's really you're going to have to supplement some of those things if they're symptomatic in certain conditions. So food sensitivities, nutrient deficiencies. What else you got?
The third one is chronic infections. So we
Mm.
know Epstein-Barr virus reactivation has been shown in several research studies be associated with Hashimoto's disease. Then poor
Mm.
gut health. We have certain parasites, specifically one parasite called blastocystis, which is the most common parasite, which is like present world over. We have research studies that presence of that parasite increases the chances of Hashimoto's disease. Plus, like we have now case report studies that post COVID or long COVID people have again higher chances of having Hashimoto's disease. So these are certain viral factors, parasites, bad bacteria, which can live
Hmm.
in our gut, can hijack our immune system and turn it against our own body, which can lead to Hashimoto's disease. So that's the third factor that we are seeing.
Right.
Then the fourth factor over here comes is stress. Again, we are living in a world which is stressful, and people think that stress I'm talking about is that, like if people are going through a bad phase in their relationship or maybe like overworked, at their work. No, we are talking about physical stress, emotional stress, spiritual stress, or like any work related stress. It is all combined, all of that together puts pressure on your adrenals, again increases your cortisol, and that again pushes your immune system in an overdrive and leads to Hashimoto's disease. So
Well,
stress
no,
being a very major
I don't
factor.
have any stressed out patients, so that can't be it, right? Like everybody, and the other problem is everyone just thinks they're tired because they're stressed. You kind of are, but if we could control the stress, your body would respond much differently, including Hashimoto's, right? But
Absolutely.
easier said than done.
I think we are living in a world where we are using the corporate language, and the corporate language is that if you do not do the grind, then you don't get the results. So you are just
Correct.
showing yourself as being weak, right?
Yeah.
So that's the reason I think majority of people do not look at stress in that way. They just feel that if they are weak, they're not able to kind of push themselves.
Yeah.
Well, that's not the case. Like our body has so much it can handle, and so much we can do. Obviously, that doesn't mean that you give up your job or like you just sit home and not do anything. That's not what we're talking about. We're talking about developing resilience to stress.
Yeah.
Yes, you still can do your dream job, you still can do other things, but spend some time like developing that resilience, or like that negative effect of the stress doesn't get to your body. So absolutely, all of my patients that come to see me again, they say, well, I think I don't have stress as a problem, you can rule that out. I was like, oh boy, that's the first problem now we have to deal with then.
Right, right. So you're pouring yourself out all the time and you're never filling back up and you don't have a problem. Okay. Yeah. Just making sure. Yeah. It's
Absolutely.
great.
And the fifth root cause over here is toxins. Okay. So the world we are living in, each and every day, more and more chemicals are being poured together. And again, a lot of research studies are suggesting that they can specifically be harmful for our endocrine system,
Uh-huh.
because our endocrine system, our hormones are very, very sensitive, and all of these toxins that we are going through in our body basically sometimes disrupts our endocrine system. So whether they are heavy metals like lead and mercury, we already know that, from ages, that they are destroying our body. Then now we are dealing with mold toxins. Now this is a new research studies, maybe in the last 10 years or so, we came to know about the negative effects of mycotoxins in our body.
Yeah.
Most people are thinking I'm talking about the mold allergies. Oh, yes, I think I'm sensitive to mold. I have mold allergy. My allergic doctor told me. Well, we are talking about mycotoxins. This is the toxins which mold produces, which lives in your system. And that's where it hijacks your immune system and destroys it. So that's the mycotoxins we're talking about. And then obviously the environmental toxins, whether it is the BPAs from the plastics, whether it is, like the glycosates from the insecticides and the pesticide, sprays on our crops, or whether it's like, other chemicals which is present in our home environment, which can be in our furnitures, in our cooking utensils, or even like, makeups and things, body
Oh
products
no.
that we are using. So all of these toxins come together and hijack our immune system, and again leads to Hashimoto's disease.
Gosh. Yeah. So that's a lot. So, you've got a book on it. The functional medicine approach in general is that your body has an incredible capacity to heal itself if you can put it in the right conditions to do so, which might mean figuring out which foods to avoid or where the toxins are coming from or handling your stress or, gut health and all of those are individually pretty big topics. Where do you start with your folks?
So again, I'm a big proponent of lifestyle changes. Okay, like a lot of people are taking like bucket loads of supplements or doing a lot of advanced things. Well, if you have a building which doesn't have a strong base, your top floor is not going to be like a very stable. So you have to lay the proper foundation. That's where the lifestyle comes into picture. So anybody who's working with us or anybody who's listening like to things which you're putting out, I always says start with the basics, because that is going to be most important for you. Yes, it is confusing when I talk about all these root causes, but if you look at those, these are not only good for your thyroid or Hashimoto's, it is good in
For
general for each and every person out there. This is just looking at your environment and then changing. So this is where the diet comes into the first picture. Change how you eat and what you eat. Give up processed food. That processed food literally doesn't have anything good that it can do to your body. So giving up all that processed food, processed meats, or processed sugar in itself is a big change for a lot of people, because that itself will take away a lot of inflammation containing foods over there. And then after that, again, like, swap for healthy food choices. Most of us are not eating our enough vegetables in our diet. Those non starchy, colorful vegetables have great antioxidants. That's the natural way of giving nutrients to your body and reducing inflammation to your body. So try to have colors in your diet. As many
Yeah.
colorful vegetables you have, the better it is for you. And then after that, if you've done that, then maybe you can move to the next step of maybe eliminating foods like gluten, dairy, sugar, caffeine, alcohol, like if you can do those. But that comes definitely after that. First you have eliminated the processed food, you have included a lot of veggies, plus included good quality protein in your diet. Yes, a lot of people are talking about protein. That's the like the it thing, for each and every person. But good quality protein is important because it gives you the right amino acids. So make sure you're getting it from food if you can, like good quality fish, chicken, or like even meats, like if you are getting some grass-fed organic meats.
Right.
And you're a vegan or vegetarian, well, go for vegetarian source of proteins like nuts and seeds and even lentils, legumes. All of those, still have good quality protein that you can do. And then good quality fats. For a long time, we have all been shying away from fat, saying that, okay, well,
Yeah.
fat is good, low fat diet is the way to go. And
Mm,
we have not seen literally any improvement in any of the disease processes from it.
no.
So, literally, our body needs fats. We just need to differentiate between good and bad fat. So, you
Yeah.
just need to stay away from that trans fat that we don't want you to eat, which is again the processed food or the fried food. But the good fats, which is the olive oils, that you are good for you, avocados, again, nuts and seeds, those fatty fishes, That good fat is absolutely needed for your body to produce right hormones as well as keep your cell membrane in good shape. So include those good fats in your diet. Don't shy away from it.
And low fat diets are usually full of processed carbs. You got to make it taste good somehow, right? So, yeah, no, absolutely. Do not get low fat dressing. That's a terrible strategy. I love that. So, what about testing? When do you start implementing food sensitivity, functional testing? What do you test for your on the thyroid side of things? What do you do for that?
So let's first talk about the general testing, which people can easily get through even their regular doctors.
Right.
So this is the complete thyroid panel. Like as you were discussing before, that only test that you are getting is a TSH. Go beyond that. We want free T3, free T4. So you know actually where your thyroid hormones lie. And
Mm-hmm.
then two antibodies to check for your Hashimoto's disease. One is TPO, which is the thyroid peroxidase antibody, and the other one is thyroglobulin antibodies. And if any of these antibodies are higher than the reference range of that lab, that is diagnostic of Hashimoto's disease, literally. You don't need like ultrasound, you don't need any biopsies or anything for the testing. That itself tells you that. So these are the testing which each and every person should get because easily available through all the labs. Insurance pays for it. You just need to ask your doctor. So this is the basic testing that everybody should get. Now, beyond that, obviously we do have advanced testing available. So one of the favorite tests for me is actually looking at your gut.
Yeah.
Those especially gut testing, which we are talking about, looking at your gut microbiome, what kind of bacteria lives in your gut, good bacteria, bad bacteria, prebiotic levels, your probiotic levels, candida levels in your body. Do you have leaky gut issues? So this test is very powerful in looking at that. And yes, a lot of people have symptoms of the gut, but some people don't. So they
Yeah.
don't even know that they might have a poor gut microbiome that they're not aware of. And we all know that, gut is so important. Like, every day there is new research study which comes up, which links to that, gut is a main reason of increase of, let's say, cancers or like, autoimmune
Mm-hmm.
diseases, Hashimoto's. So this is one of the favorite tests that I order in a lot of my patients, starting with the gut analysis of looking at their gut. The food sensory test actually is not my favorite test to order because it is not a perfect test.
Yep.
The food sensory test, like we have to interpret it with a table of salt. Basically, what that means is that, let's say if you're not eating gluten for a long time, it might show that you are not sensitive to gluten and it might show
Right.
negative while you might have a problem with it. But you love almonds, and each and every meal you are eating almonds, and it might show that your body is sensitive to almonds, but in reality you are just eating too much of it. So that's the reason I will order food sensitivity test as a later part if I'm not getting the results. So that is not my usual go to test to order it. Some people order it and they feel it is absolutely necessary. I'm just telling you, like, my hunch of, because if the test is not perfect, like, I cannot rely on it a lot.
Yeah, that's one of the functional tests that we are doing at our practice. And I agree with you. It's very difficult to interpret in real life. Like, I usually say pick the most likely ones and let's narrow it down because usually you get one of those that's full of red, like they're sensitive to everything. Like, okay, you're not sensitive to all that stuff. Let's go back. Should have run a gut health panel because you've got a gut problem. Things are getting through too big. You're full of candida. Something else is going on because there's no way that you're just happen to be sensitive to, 80% of the foods we tested. Yeah, it's a tough test. And that's one reason I haven't run it on myself because I don't, I, I'm like, it's so hard. I'm gluten free because of my Hashimoto's, and I had another actually post COVID. I had a autoimmune attack on my spinal cord and had like a transverse myelitis picture, but then it happened again. And it's like, hey, that's supposed to be a random one off. It's probably a spike protein thing, but I'm like, let's just get rid of the gluten. And you're right. I don't feel any different. I don't have a gut problem with gluten. I don't feel different, but my autoimmune processes are improving. And so it's like, okay, fine. I guess I'll keep doing it. But yeah, the testing, so many of my patients come in and their TSH is like 3.5 and they haven't ever had any other thyroid testing. And they're like, yeah, my doctor said my thyroid's normal, but I'm cold, I'm gaining weight, I'm exhausted, my hair's falling out. I'm like, yeah. How about we run some other tests and let's see. And they're invariably, they're either always Hashimoto's or If they're not, they're free T3s on the low end of the range. And it's like, I think we can help you. Right? You're so symptomatic, I didn't even need to run the test, but we're going to go ahead and run the test and show you. Yeah.
No, absolutely. I think this complete testing is so much important. And again, a lot of people don't do that. And that's the reason, unfortunately, they suffer for a very, very long time. So, complete thyroid testing should be a part of it. And then root cause analysis, the toxin test, again, very important test that, if you have the ability to run it,
Yes.
do it, because invariably 90% of my patients will have some or the other toxins in their system. Whether are we dealing with heavy metals, which can be mercury, because obviously fish is great, but it does come with mercury, unfortunately, a lot of times. Or it can be lead, which can be because of certain foods or certain waters,
Yeah.
contamination that we are seeing. And mycotoxins are again a huge problem. And environmental toxins, we know that each and every person will have it. So again, knowing your total toxin burden load is so important, because then you can choose the right way to detoxify, removing them or lowering the burden at least, so that your body can
Right.
function better. So that's another test that we run a lot of time, or at least we ask our patients to run, is toxin analysis, so we know how bad of the toxins we are dealing with.
I love it. The few times I've run mold, they've always had one or two off the chart. And I don't run it unless I'm like, this is weird. Something else is going on. Let's try this, right? Like, cause I'm not, that's not part of my routine. And so it's pre-selecting the most likely patients already. The hard part becomes then what do I do about it? Like, how are you going to find the source? Burn the house down and move away. So that transfer that burden onto the patient. Like, all right, you've got to figure out where this is coming from.
I think, in that aspect, obviously, when I started my journey, each and every, I was told that, okay, well, the patient just has to move out their house. There is no way. Leave everything behind, cannot take even a single clothing with you, nothing, and then just start your life from
Start your life
scratch.
over.
Yeah, I was like, I don't think that is possible for even for me if somebody tells me to do that.
Right.
So again, I am a man of experiments and things. So I started experimenting or working with my clients as, okay, well, if you cannot move out of the house or do it, that's okay. Let's lower the burden.
Yeah.
Or if you see any visible places, at least get rid of the mold from there.
Yes.
And I think we do a pretty good job. I think what happens is that if we can lower the burden of toxins in our system, then our system can still handle it, because we have a great detox system, right?
Yeah.
And yes, for some people, it doesn't work that great. But if we lower the load, most of the time, those people are able to handle it. Their body starts functioning better. We see the antibodies also coming down, and plus their symptoms getting better. So I will say 90% of patients don't move out of their house or have to give up their life. And still, we see an improvement. Yes, those people will never get their mold levels back to zero. That is not going to be possible, because the mold is still hidden in their house. But at least they can still live their life, and then hopefully eventually at some point of time they're able to move out. But till the time, at least they're not waiting for not to start the protocol. They still feel good. They are able to lower their thyroid numbers and stuff. So at least I'm happy in that way. A lot of people don't agree with me. They said, no, 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 you have to push them to get give up everything and move out. I said, well, at least I don't feel that is possible for majority of my clients, so
Correct.
I
It's
have
not
to just.
realistic. And you're going to move into a house that probably has a little mold somewhere. Right? Like, where are you going to go that's completely mold free? Right. I guess you go to a dry enough climate and a new enough house. If there wasn't a leak, or, it's like crazy. So I'm with you. I mean, when I check these mold panels, they're positive for almost all of them, but they're low positive for most of them. And then you've got these two where the bars are just, running off the edge of the paper. And you're like, okay, these guys, we've got to find these guys. And, of course, the symptom sets match up on those. It's crazy. I love it. So that's both a lot and a lot of hope for people, because, we've got a generation of people that have been on levothyroxine, Synthroid, just T4, and their TSH looks great because T4 fixes TSH, right? Like 100%, that's how the body works. But they're still symptomatic. Their TPO antibodies or the thyroglobulin antibodies are still through the roof, and they feel symptomatic, right? So this is hope for so many people that have been letdown's a big word. They're being treated to the best of their doctor's ability. However, there seems to be something else. And what we're saying is there's a lot more to the story, and that these 5 pillars of possible causes that are almost completely in the control of the patient to take, and hopefully with a physician walking alongside them like you or me or another functional medicine provider to help them start knocking out some of these possible causes. For people that want to hear more from you, get in touch with you, understand more about this, you have a book, obviously. What's the best way for people to learn more and follow you? And maybe, I mean, you've even got a virtual clinic, is my understanding.
That is correct. Yes. So everybody learns differently. That's what I also realized, when I was trying to share information. Some people like to read. So that's where my book called Reversing Hashimoto's is a very easy read. So I've written it for like a common man who can easily understand what is going on with them and obviously actionable steps to fixing it. And plus, obviously, it is research based. So at least 160 references are there in the book so that you
Gosh.
at least believe that, okay, well, I'm just not making it in thin air. So available on Amazon, Reversing Hashimoto's. If you are a person who doesn't like to read, you want to listen, then I have a great YouTube channel under my name called Anshul Gupta MD. Bite-sized information is where I share over there, like what you can do today, that can help you with your thyroid inflammation and things. And then if you want to work with us, or interested in deep dive, then, we have a virtual clinic. We see patients from all over the country. You can go on our website, anshulguptamd.com. And then that's where you can find more information about how you can work with us. So that's where is there. Obviously, all the social media handles are Anshul Gupta MD. So we are on Insta as well as Facebook also.
Yeah, and you've got like a bazillion followers, which is awesome because it's such needed information. And obviously, you've hit a nerve because people are loving it. And, you have a mission to help 1 billion people. So having a gazillion people following you on your YouTube channel is a heck of a start, man.
Well, initially it was 1 million. Then, as you said, we started, like the YouTube channel grew and then we were reaching more people. So we have already
1
reached that
million.
mark.
That's crazy.
And
That's
then we
crazy,
are
man.
now the mission is the 1 billion. So hopefully in the next few years, we are able to do it. But that's the goal, to touch, lives across the globe and give them hope to get better because and I know that we can do it. And the best thing we can do is for people to give hope, give them the right information that can change their life.
Man, thank you for coming on the show. Thank you for the hope that you're doing, the mission that you have. Really wonderful to meet you. This is great. I'm sure I'm going to personally benefit from this as well as a fellow Hashimoto's, I won't say sufferer, but patient. And man, I hope more people reach out. I would love for people that need a deep dive to reach out and go. But thank you for all the relatively cheap and or free information that you're providing to the rest of us. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for having me on the show. Again, it was really a pleasure talking and sharing all the information.
Man, thanks a lot. You have a great day, okay?
You too.
Thanks for joining me today on MyMD Unscripted. I hope today's conversation opened your mind and inspired you to imagine a better path for your health and therefore life. If you found value in this episode, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with someone passionate about transforming healthcare. Real change starts with real conversations, so let's keep them going. Until next time, stay well, stay curious, and never stop pushing for better.